Now, a video I recorded before this, but it's coming out later, I talked about it, but anytime I have a Xenoblade video going up and it's exceptionally hype, I have to bring out the Sena chain attack YIPPEE shirt. I got to, it's necessary. That's how you know it's serious. Starting with these outfits, I think these outfits are really nice. First of all, Jin's like blade form outfit on Tyon. Why does this work so well on my boy? I mean, this is my goat. Tyon's my favorite character for those that don't know and didn't watch my playthrough. Then of course you have Shulk's outfit on Noah. You have Nia's blade form outfit for Mia, which is interesting. Of course you got the Bridget outfit for Sena, which fits on her. So we got Ryan Time's outfit on Land, yes sir. And they call these the throwback outfits. And then we got Melia's outfit for Uni, which also works really well, of course. Now onto the meat. The meat and potatoes. There's so much to talk about. I had so many thoughts going around. I already talked with other people about this, really theorizing. I can just go on and on and on and on and on. I never thought so quickly I'd be able to make an analysis or breakdown or even have the potential for theories to go on about this. But first I want to say, I noticed he has like the Zanza type patterns and wings on his back. It's not like Telethia. Of course, he has the Monado, which he can use to any degree of power, but it's also really sharp here. It's like the Monado was already sharp, but it looks exceptionally pointed here. I just want to point that out. And there's something else in these frames that I'm going to be pointing out. I'm going to point it out later though. So we'll get to that. Zooms in. Of course, you could definitely see that's Alvis's face. He got the outfit, the fur coat. He has the necklace with his core crystal Zohar on here. And it's so dope.
Really what you want?
Man, my boys. Look at my boys. Heartless machine. That's something really interesting that I'm gonna go back and talk about these. First of all, of course, you have Shulk's Monado, at least the frame he made for his powers. Look, he not only has his Xenoblade 1 coat on here, but he has this cloak. And one of the founders in the Founders Hall in the city in Xenoblade 3, he had a bit longer hair. I mean, Shulk does have a bit longer hair here. I mean, you could tell it's longer than what Shulk would normally have, but he had the cloak too. The only thing about that is something I found really interesting. That statue people thought was Dunban because he lost an arm, but now seeing this cloak is exactly what was on the statue, and Shulk has it. But even in this trailer, like when we go on ahead, you can see Shulk still has his right arm. Is that one statue that had the goggles actually Shulk? But that's too young for this obvious comparison to Rex's current self now, where he's much older and is an adult. And I was saying, even when I was playing through Xenoblade 3 and I got to chapter 5, the VODs are all in the playlist on the channel. I'll put that in the description below. I was like, he has that like short coat, he has the hair. This looks like an adult version of Rex. Of course, by then I hadn't beaten the game, so I didn't see that picture yet. But you know, the biggest reason why that helped me think that is because even on the plaque it said that he wielded two great swords. As we see in this picture, he's wielding both Mithra's blade and Pyra's blade at the exact same time, which is incredible. Shulk sounds tired. Of course, this is still Adam Howden. I mean, he's the GOAT. When he's yelling, you can just hear the passion so much. Instantly, you know that voice. That's why Shulk is so renowned. Adam Howden does an excellent job, and just like, man, and that Shulk, he just pours that emotion into the role every single time. The Rex's voice is definitely different. I mean, of course, he grew up and got older. He got 3 whole wives and everything.
Nothing's gonna get through to him. He's a heartless machine.
It definitely still fits. He still has a thick accent, deeper voice. So I think it is fitting. At first, it took me a couple attempts to go back to it, and I was like, this is really fit. But yeah, I think it fits. So the next thing I want to talk about is my boy Rex here. He still has his anchor shot on his arm. He doesn't have the actual harpoon there, which I find interesting how he actually still has the mechanism, but not the actual harpoon there. Maybe he already used it. I don't know. He is wielding both at the same time, but something else is that they don't have their like core crystals inside of them. And I assume that means because the Trinity processor is completely destroyed, because both in Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2 worlds, they pretty much reset the reality. You know, Shulk recreated the universe with his true Monado at the end of Xenoblade 1, and the architect did it in Xenoblade 2. So pretty much their versions of the power eventually were kind of gone, but they themselves still possessed power, you know what I'm saying? Shulk is still able to use Monado art, and Rex is still able to use the powers of the Aegis. They just don't have the level of ether control I assume that they normally would. Like, Shulk doesn't have his true Monado, so he's not not going to be able to be recreating entire universe all the time on just a whim. And Mithra and Pyrus blades, they're just normal blades now, but they're still exceptionally powerful, and Rex is able to use the arts that he can to an exceptional degree. This is what I also wanted to talk about next. Oh, there's something else I didn't even notice that I actually just saw. So firstly, this area seems more like, I guess you can say, the general like Xenoblade final boss type setting when they're fighting against the ethereal being, I guess you could say. Ouroboros and Xenoblade 3 were having their final bout against Zed, especially in Xenoblade 1 when they're fighting Zanza, where they're kind of like walking through space. But when I was going to say that, there's something else I realized, that look at the metal ground. This seems like it's still in a natural place. Now, is all this energy he's giving off, this isn't like a separate dimension type area. All of this that we see around him is just giving off that color of energy, so it's not like in a separate space. He's just giving off all of this orange fire and power. Now again, this leads me back to this section that I want to talk about. Not only does he have the Zanza type back patterns on him, but this also reminds me of the rifts that you see in Future Connected, like the ones you see when you fight the Fog King, the ones you see around the Bionis shoulder, and especially the one you see in Alchema for the very first time. It's like it's a ripping all throughout time. And you know they're in Xenoblade 2 because the Fog King is one of the enemies in Moritha, just completely covered in fog, and that's the Fog King. But is it converging onto this one point is what I'm thinking. Is Alvis the one creating all of these rifts that connected the two worlds? Because it seems like it's going to be the prequel. I mean, they look like two of the founders in the statues. They look like the mentors, because we know the founders actually in Xenoblade 3, the one that looked like Rex and the one that had the cloak that Shulk is wearing right here, mentors of the actual founders, because the founders themselves didn't want a statue of them. They wanted a statue of their famed mentor. There is another thing that I'm going to point out about Shulk. One thing that a lot of people notice, and even I noticed, but I noticed this in the first go around, but I didn't really think about it, is that Shulk kind of has like fangs. You see, kind of has fangs. The statue that had the cloak, but he also has that like striped vertical sweater, and he has the like power frame belts on him and a little bit of longer hair, is the one that looks the most like Shulk here. So many people thought like the other one that had like the goggles and the short hair was Shulk, because that looks like Shulk's like original design. Looks like Shulk's original design. But of course, since Rex is older here, of course the older Shulk is going to be here. I mean, look at his arms in the first place. Like I said, the only thing that kind of is a disconnect is the fake arm, but that could happen literally in this fight, you know what I'm saying? This doesn't have to be the final bout. The fangs here really look similar to another character in Xenoblade 3 that had fangs, and that is Shania. Shania very clearly in a scene in Xenoblade 3 in the close-up right at the beginning of chapter 6, you can clearly see her fangs there. And I was like, that can't be a coincidence. And I saw that this exact statue that looks like Shulk is the House Reid family founding statue, and Shania's last name is Reid. She's from that family, so that's another really big connection that I noticed between the two. And that was like almost like right before I started recording this, and that's how I was like, okay, all these ideas, all things I'm thinking about, I might as well just go ahead and make a big old video about it. I might as well. But back to this panel right here, which is really important, because I want to bring up the fact that the fog right here, this is exactly like both, not only the fog in Future Connected, but also especially the Xenoblade 3 fog. Now, the fog in Xenoblade 3, even Moebius themselves didn't really know what caused it, and even their Moebius iris couldn't really have any effect on it. And that is kind of like the biggest disconnect between what exactly Alvis is, I think, at least what he's doing here, and Moebius in Xenoblade 3, because like I said, the Moebius iris was getting disrupted by this fog, but it looks like Alvis is creating this black fog energy that they talked about a lot in Xenoblade 3. They could like control it when they use the Annihilator, but really it was something that they couldn't really do anything about. And that's the only thing that's really disconnecting me from really counting Alvis as the true console A, because I feel like this isn't something that is happening within the context of the Endless now in Xenoblade 3, where with the consoles, with Moebius, this feels like more like the precursor. But even though technically it doesn't have to be a precursor, because we see these two that look like the founding statues there, but that's also where I'm really confused on if it actually is a situation where it's the founders. I guess you can assume that they have their memories of everything, like Shulk desperately playing out to Alvis, is this why? Is this really what you want? It looks like he's pleading to Alvis from a perspective of, I know you and why are you doing this? But he can also just assume, why is he doing this in the first place? He could be questioning him from just an opposition point of view, or questioning him from a a I know you point of view. We know Shulk knows Alvis. They have a whole long history. Alvis is the Monado. Is this like before the two worlds, or is this like right in the actual world of Ionios and they're really trying to stop this? Does Alvis know exactly what he's doing? But Rex also, the thing that he says right here, listen, he says nothing's going to get through to him. He's the heartless machine. That is really a big point of what the architect tells him about Malos. Malos, aka Logos, looks and acts and behaves like he's a person, has a personality, but in reality, at its core, he's still just an information processing unit. And we know Ontos is just one of the other cores of the Trinity processors. So at the end of the day, even he, just like Numa and Logos, is just going to be an information processing unit. If he gets to a point to where he feels like this should be happening in the world, he will do it and shrug off any and all of his thoughts and forms and take things upon himself. Because even in the first place, Alvis was behaving as a disciple of Zanza. Technically, you gotta remember, Alvis isn't always one who's going to be playing for the good guys. If this really takes place still in Ionios and they're the part of the first Ouroboros, Shulk still has his Monado and Rex still has his Aegis weapons. So I feel like after they get into Ionios, what are the odds that they would still have their same exact weapons from before the worlds colliding? You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, by the way, I noticed this looks like the Bionis Leg. Is it still in Gower Play? Just still on the leg, either way. Like killing Granddad wasn't enough for you. This is what I really want to talk about. This individual, he's the one that looks the most like the House Vandham founder in the statue, because he has the one little hair in the front. He's the one that they said has Noah's chin, which is funny. And Noah is kind of like more based on Faye from Xenogears, which of course you have the actual decoy Faye. One thing I noticed that actually 100% confirmed that is, Ghondor, who is a Vandham, uses the fist blades. And he himself kind of has like, I'll put another picture on screen where you can clearly see his hand as part of the actual art, but you can see on his hand he has like a fist gauntlet. That's how you know, one, he's House Vandham and they could use the fist a lot, but that's also another big direct connection to Ghondor and how he's from the statue. Plus you can actually see the House Vandham symbol on his sleeve right here. I actually didn't even notice it until just now. He actually has the House Vandham mark that you see on Ghondor and Guernica's eye patch, because each of the different houses, they all have their own symbol, and their own symbol of their house is on each of their eye patches, which is why on Shania's eye patch you have the House Reid symbol, and it actually looks like there's kind of like a little sword, almost like a Monado in it. And of course on this one is the same symbol that is on Gondor's eye patch as well. And at first I was like, hold up, is this supposed to be the House Vandham individual? But then someone else was like, I mean, it could be Noah and Mio's son that we never actually get to see what happens to him. And I was like, he does have the hair for it, but that wouldn't make much sense either. And not Noah and Mio's son, but N and M's son. But actually, now that I think about it, that could work. They could be one and the same. They could be one and the same because N and M had countless lives, and they eventually had a life to where they had a son. Placed his son away so he can like have his own life and be away from danger. Now, it would also make sense that he wouldn't have any like name relation to N and M because he's an orphan now, so he would be taken out by whatever family takes him up. And he's talking about a granddad here, so there's obviously some sort of family he would have. Maybe it's like an older person that took him in, but it would also make sense because although N did end up wiping out the city, he had a son before he became N and ended up wiping out the city. So maybe we'll get an encounter between N and his son, who is the House Vandham founder. We clearly see in this shot an Ouroboros popping out, which kind of almost looked like Mio's like Ouroboros type thing, because right here I was like, are those ears? And I was like, no, there's no way it wouldn't be Mio's. Maybe whoever he's fusing or transforming with is also Gormati, so this one's gonna have ears too. But if this is his transformation activating, why would it be based on Gormati that he's accompanied with? But man, honestly, I think that might be everything that I really wanted to say and talk about. Let me know what you guys think. What else, if there's anything that I missed or anything that I kind of wanted to talk about, anything you think that I should have talked about, let me know in the comments below. Also, make sure you put hashtag Alvis on your comment if you stayed this far on the video, so I know who really is interested in all this theorizing and lore. The next original Xenoblade video coming out is going to be, what is the strongest Xenoblade weapon? The Monado versus the Aegises versus Lucky 7. That's gonna be the next one. If you don't want to spoil what is coming up after that, then here, I'm gonna give you the time to leave right now. The next one after that is going to be ranking every lyrical song in Xenoblade Chronicles. Red Volume 3 comes out in a week, so subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, because I'm going to be streaming when that comes out, playing the new hero. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And I'm so excited.